questions that you guys might have. Yes, Dr. Shields.
Oh, well, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You know, one of the things is, since this is a democracy, you in a way are going to have to be making a choice, because a lot of this stuff is ethical. I think that's part of what you're saying about not making a choice. Mm-hmm. And then being informed, you're going to be electing the officials that will be going to state and local meeting houses, as well as the Congress in Washington, who actually legislate on these issues. So I was wondering, if you did have to go, push comes to shove, and I really asked you, and I appreciate how you present to us to enable us to make a choice. So this is kind of like a second part of your presentation, if you will. If I did ask you to push comes to shove, how would you come down on this issue if you had to, in terms of there's a candidate to support, and one was supporting one over the others, and everything else was equal? Which way do you think you would go?
Well, first part to answer that question, I believe regulation would be the main thing I would look at first. How they plan to still explore these sciences, but still in an ethical way, putting restrictions on certain things. But like you said, I would still be for both of these sciences, because I feel they have a huge positive potential. So I feel it would be silly for us not to investigate it. But I would still be a little eerie of, like I said, regulations and how these sciences are being used.
Would it be fair to say that you are in favor but going cautiously?
Exactly. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Coyle, looking fantastic today.
Thank you. Okay. One stylistic question. Did you choose the images to be that pixelated? Was that a stylistic choice, or was that just how they turned out? I was just wondering.
That's just how they turned out.
Okay.
I had to look for a larger picture.
Okay, no, that's all right. Sort of thinking about issues of oversight and regulation and so on. I mean, this is sort of, it relates to what Dr. Shields is talking about. We're sort of entering into some interesting territory here, and looking back on things. It took us 200 years or so to codify slavery, to figure out how we would create a set of laws regulating treatment of slaves, and so on, the trade in them, and so forth. And I'm thinking about that cartoon you had there of the sheep discussing, some organisms are more equal than others, etc. We're essentially going to be creating new classes of society in some ways, whether we like it or not. These various, various schemes for organ donation and so on. How should that be something left to the scientists? Should that be something that includes ethicists and spiritual leaders? Should that be something that's left to elected politicians? You've had to educate yourself about this. Mm-hmm. How do we have a group of people making decisions about this in a way that we're only beginning to in terms of animals?
I'd like to think it's going to involve a lot of people informing themselves about what this is, what are the potential risks that are involved with this. I think it does have a lot to do with politicians. They're going to have to, have ethical backgrounds behind their policies, and people are going to have to decide, what they feel is right or wrong. I also want to say that that's why I question whether the cloning of humans is necessary. I don't really see too many possibilities other than cloning scientists, cloning extremely, smart people, but cloning an average human being like me or you, I don't see that as potential. I see that as negative, like you said, creating different classes. I see that happening. So I guess to answer your question, I think it's just going to take a lot of people become informed about these two things to be able to make a decision. Because yes, it's a very tricky thing if you're not informed. Hope I answered.
And I think that if anything ever comes of cloning humans, that it's got to be something that's available. We've talked about this in class, that everyone, to hopefully try and avoid class struggle, that only certain people will be able to clone. And one thing that a lot of people think about when they hear the word clone is that it's going to be someone that's exactly like them, which isn't necessarily true. Your genes are only so much of what defines you, and then there's a lot of environmental factors It'll define who you are. So that clone will be its own individual person. It'll just look exactly like someone else who existed.
Well, Mr. Ioannidis was going to ask you, would the physical appearance be the same though?
The physical appearance, to some extent, yeah. But again, a lot of it would depend on nutrition and exercise and things like that that could change that person's physical
Environmental
features.
variables.
Yeah.
Does, yeah. Sort of almost the perfect nature versus nurture
Right.
division.
Yeah.
At what point the environment takes over.
Okay, Mr. Boyle, you're texting a lot. Do you have any questions?
I'm taking notes on a notepad, actually.
Oh.
Oh, we got that on camera. Any other questions?
Good try, though.
All
It
right.
was a good
Good
shot.
try.
Maybe
Well,
you can get
I have
Constance.
a,
Dr.
I have
Carlisle.
a quick question. I know that a big part of this course is studying previous controversial scientific discovery.
Mhm.
Do you see any parallels or similarities between genetic engineering and some of those earlier scientific discoveries that you studied? In terms of possibilities and negative aspects.
Well, I think almost every, that scientific discovery in the past that has had some ethical questioning behind it is just like this. There's people who think it's right, people who think it's wrong, and people have reasons for both. I'm trying to think of an exact, on the spot here. Trying to think of an exact.
I think something that we haven't talked about that much, but it may relate, is the subject of eugenics.
Yep.
That was a topic that came up, but we decided not to tackle it. You know what eugenics is? Yeah. Eugenics is
We
essentially,
talked about it last term
yeah.
in my class.
Did we?
I was even thinking
Race
of
science.
the atom bomb.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say that, but I couldn't think of
That's
ending the war. But I couldn't really think of positive. Not too many positives were considered.
yeah,
Especially
yeah.
not to the extent of these two sciences,
Yep.
and yet that the atomic bomb was explored. So
Okay.
I don't know if that was for good or
Well,
bad.
That's fine.
Sometimes it comes down to these ghastly mathematical equations.
All right. Thank you, Will.